the woman began to shed her skin like a snake. She slowly peeled the outer layer starting from her toes, but the skin underneath was pitch black. It looked as if she was removing a pair of stockings. She easily pulled the entire skin off. Finally, she grabbed the back and gave one strong pull. Her whole body was completely separated from the outer shell. Just not long ago, she had been a completely normal woman. So why did all of this happen? The story happened to a pair of twin brothers, Elias and Lucas. After their parents' divorce, the twins had been living with their father. One day, they were told to return to their mother's countryside home. When they arrived, they were startled to find their mother's entire head wrapped in thick bandages. She explained that she had undergone cosmetic surgery. Their mother was a former actress who returned to spend time with them again. But the twins still felt uneasy. Seeing this, the woman hurried to bring out toys to make the boys happy. After gaining some trust, Elias even drew a family portrait for her. Meanwhile, the mother set strict rules for the boys. During her recovery, they were not allowed to enter her bedroom or the barn outside. However, the next day, while playing, the brothers accidentally wandered near the barn. Still suspicious of the woman, Elias wanted to see what was inside. Ignoring Lucas's attempts to stop him, he quietly slipped into the barn. Inside, the place was filled with hay. Curious, Elias climbed to the second floor. Then he noticed a blood-stained towel hanging over a bucket. There were also clear blood marks on the wooden boards above it. The sight made Elias deeply uncomfortable. Frightened, the boys quickly ran back out of the barn. But as soon as they stepped outside, they were caught by the mother. Elias never expected her to be so furious. She not only yelled at him, but also shoved him hard onto the ground. Her cold and harsh expression terrified him. At that moment, the twins began to doubt whether the woman in front of them was really their mother. But that night, her attitude suddenly changed. She sat with them to watch a movie. She even read them a bedtime story. For a moment, she seemed gentle again, like their real mother. However, when Elias asked her to sing the familiar lullaby she used to sing when they were younger, she refused without hesitation. Later that night, Elias overheard her whispering on the phone in the kitchen. He clearly heard her say, "I can't keep pretending. I want him gone." Listening from the doorway, Elias felt shocked and confused. He feared that the him she wanted gone was either Lucas or himself. The next morning, he told Lucas everything. The brothers began to believe the woman was an imposter with dangerous intentions. So, to find out her true identity, they decided to use walkie-talkies as a hidden listening device. While the woman was watching TV in the living room, they sneaked into her bedroom. But just as Elias placed the walkie-talkie under the bed, he heard footsteps approaching. Lucas panicked and ran. Elias had no time to escape, so he hid behind the curtains. Through the gap, he saw the woman dancing in a seductive, unfamiliar way. This was not something their mother ever did. Then Elias noticed the family portrait he drew, thrown into the trash. This confirmed his suspicion even more. He told Lucas everything. They decided to expose her identity, so they quietly took a photo of her, then compared it with an old photo of their mother. They were shocked to find that their real mother had green eyes, while this woman's eyes were blue. That meant the woman was indeed an imposter. They told their father, but when the woman found out, she stormed into the room, ripped the blanket away, and forcefully took their phone. She went to the kitchen, threw it into the garbage disposal, and handed back a destroyed phone. She furiously warned them never to step outside the house again. But Elias still wanted to confirm the truth. So, while the woman showered, he quietly entered the bathroom. He saw her wearing a face mask and thought she was asleep. He reached out to peel it back.
What are you doing?
She grabbed his wrist and demanded to know what he was doing. Terrified, Elias ran back to the room and blocked the door with a table. The handle shook violently. The boys trembled in fear. Then the woman grabbed a crowbar and smashed the lock. She entered the room, slapped Elias, dragged him to the bathroom and poured cold water over him, forcing him to admit she was his mother. With no other choice, Elias said the words she wanted.
You're my mother! You're my mother! You're my mother! You're my mother!
Lucas witnessed everything, shaking in terror. After the punishment, Elias was physically hurt and emotionally broken. That night, he had a nightmare. The woman peeled her skin again from her toes. Underneath was black flesh, then peeled the rest of her body in one pull. At that moment, Lucas woke him up. They realized the situation was now too dangerous. They decided they must escape. So, while she slept, they ran into the night. They ran far from the farmhouse and eventually found a small nearby house. It seemed abandoned, but they had no other choice. They broke a window and climbed inside. The two brothers hid there and stayed curled together. In the middle of the night, Elias suddenly woke up and realized that Lucas was gone. He grabbed a flashlight and stepped out to look for him. On the glass window, he saw a clear handprint. Even stranger, the handprint faded away almost instantly. Just as he leaned closer to examine it, a pitch-black creature crashed through the window and cornered Elias. At the last second, Elias jolted awake. Everything had been another nightmare. Soon after, two local state troopers on patrol found the boys. Elias quickly told them everything about the imposter mother. The officers promised to investigate and said they would take the boys to their father. But after driving for a while, Elias and Lucas realized they were being taken back to their mother's farmhouse instead. By the time they arrived, the woman had already removed all her bandages and stood waiting at the door. During the conversation with the police, she used calm tone, emotional control, and convincing explanations. With ease, she persuaded the officers that everything was fine. The police left. Elias and Lucas watched helplessly, sinking into despair. The brothers expected punishment this time, but instead, the woman simply muttered a few frustrated words, returned to her bedroom, took a few pills, and fell asleep. Later, the boys realized that if they did nothing, the danger would only grow. They decided to take action. They quietly entered her bedroom. When the woman woke the next morning, she discovered she was completely tied down. She struggled wildly, kicking and twisting with all her strength, but the tape was too tight to break. Elias gathered his courage and confronted her, saying that her eyes were blue, while their real mother's eyes were green. The woman let out a sigh. She explained that the old photograph was taken when she was acting in a film. She used green contact lenses for that role, which made her eyes look different. She insisted the green contacts were still inside her handbag downstairs. To verify her claim, the brothers went downstairs to search for the handbag. However, Lucas found it first and claimed there was nothing inside. Elias became convinced the woman was lying on purpose. So he filled a bucket halfway with water and poured in ice until it was freezing cold. Then he splashed the icy water all over the woman. He demanded to know where their real mother was hidden. No matter how many times Elias drenched her with cold water, the woman continued to insist she was their mother. But when Elias asked why she ripped up his family portrait, the woman broke down crying and could not explain anything clearly. Seeing her cry, Elias began to waver, but Lucas immediately whispered to him, fueling his suspicion, and urged him to seal her mouth. Torn but overwhelmed, Elias obeyed. He stuffed a sock into her mouth, then wrapped duct tape tightly over it. Just as the boys were about to leave the room, the two state troopers unexpectedly returned for a wellness check. Hearing the officers at the door, the woman began kicking and screaming as hard as she could, desperately trying to make noise for help. But Elias quickly went to the door and told the police that their mother wasn't home. The officers left again. But just when they were about to leave, Elias suddenly said he had forgotten his toothbrush and ran back inside. However, after returning to the house, he did not go to get his toothbrush. Instead, he went straight for his mother's bag. To his shock, there really was a pair of contact lenses inside. Even more shocking, the lenses were green. At that moment, he finally understood. It was Lucas who had lied to him. When Lucas rushed back inside, the two immediately started arguing. Lucas even grabbed Elias and dragged him down the stairs. Elias kicked him away in panic and quickly ran into the room, locking the door behind him. He then used scissors to cut the tape binding his mother. But once she was freed, Elias realized Lucas had disappeared. Elias was confused. Where did Lucas go? His mother told him that the truth had always been inside the barn. She led Elias to the upper loft of the barn and helped him remember what had really happened. She explained that the stains on the wooden boards were blood, and the small hole in the center was actually a bullet hole. 1 year ago, while the twins were playing in the barn, Elias had accidentally fired a gun. The shot killed Lucas instantly. Unable to accept the trauma, Elias developed a split in his mind and created an imaginary version of Lucas to cope with the guilt. And the reason his mother's head was wrapped in bandages was because she had undergone plastic surgery. She wanted to return with a new face to gently help Elias move on from the past. But even after the truth was revealed, Elias still refused to believe it. His mind shattered again. In a panic, he accidentally pushed his mother from the second floor. She fell and lost consciousness. Elias believed she was dead. At that moment, a broken oil lantern ignited the hay below. Flames spread rapidly throughout the barn. Elias ran out, leaving his mother behind. He called out for her in despair, but there was no answer. Eventually, he collapsed to his knees, exhausted and helpless, as the barn burned and collapsed in front of him. When the fire finally died down into silent ashes, Elias still refused to accept reality. His mind, completely shattered, created them again. His mother and Lucas, standing beside him, alive in his imagination. The story ended with Elias, his mother, and Lucas, standing together peacefully, a moment that was warm and comforting, yet deeply heartbreaking.